Chapter 9 of Deliver Me from Eva by Paul Bailey. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ben Tucker. Chapter 9. That night was possessed of all the charms of another nuptial approach. Arm in arm, Eva and I journeyed the wooded path back to Thalamus, and instead of lurking horror in its darkness, there was romance, and the zest and charm of a new world. The jasmine scent was on the air, but it whispered of young delights and buoyed the soul. The mockingbirds sang, but their plaintive flutes whistled of joy and not of sorrow. And Thalamus quite suddenly had new and added endearance to me. It was flawless now in its appeal, and satisfying beyond anything I had known before. We basked in its comforts, we listened to recordings for half an hour, and played quite shamelessly about Eva's apartment before surrendering to our bed. The next morning we slept late, and after our baths Margot served breakfast in the solarium. Eva had builded the east, or canyon side of her house, with the same meticulous thought for natural setting as was so apparent on the driveway or western approach. The curved walls of quartz glass panels were so constructed that at a single touch of an electric button the two halves glided into hidden recesses, and the room became an integral part of the garden, with its pool, grass, and flowers. A stone balustrade marked the arroyo's margin, and one could gaze down this natural river course to the nearest turn. On the other side, perhaps a mile away, commenced the streets and houses of beautiful Pasadena. I had but to raise my eyes across the table to a breathless sweep of the green and purple crests of the Sierra Madres. I had but to lower them to see an adorable and fascinating woman. A question or two does remain, I confessed, as we lazed over our breakfast coffee. For one thing, just what did you have in mind when you named your creation Thalamus? She smiled as one who has kept a secret too long, and straightened the neck folds of her blue satin housecoat. What do you know of anatomy, Mark? Darn little. From school days I vaguely remember hearing something about the femur and the clavicle. She grinned delightfully. Want to hear a little more? I was asking about Thalamus, my dear mysterious girl. There are 3 glands in the head, Mark. Good thing, I laughed devilishly. Otherwise I guess people would be bottom-heavy. Those 3 glands, she patiently continued, are the pineal, the pituitary, and the thalamic. Each has a function. Well, I'll be a crocheted bustle. So you named it after a gland. Eva's attitude would not change from seriousness. These brain glands are strange and interesting, she confided, leaning forward as though to disclose a greater secret. They are the connecting link between the conscious will and the infinite. The pineal, for instance, is shaped like a pine cone, is of reddish-gray color, and is appended to the 3rd ventricle of the brain. Anatomists can give no adequate explanation as to its function, other than the likelihood of it being a carryover in rudimentary form of some important sense organ in vertebrate ancestral species. In mankind at large, I agree that the pineal is indeed in rudimentary form. Philosophers have considered it the seat of the soul, and as such hit considerably nearer the truth. My father has found that use and development of the pineal gland can give man the eyes and prescience of a seer. The pituitary, cradled in the sella turcica, at the base of the skull, is an oval reddish-gray vascular body. It is a ductless gland whose secretion profoundly affects the metabolism of the body. It is both regulator and interpreter of life's functions. But the thalamic gland, that's a mystery in and of itself. So are you. And this house, I interrupted. A pleasant mystery. It's a small gland, immediately adjacent to the frontal sinus, and interconnected to the front lobes of the cerebrum. From it flows a vital secretion which actuates the seat of intelligence to the manifestations of warmth, comfort, and mental harmony. The gland is shaped like a heart, and apparently is responsive to impulses and manifestations of the supreme intelligence. In this gland are found every type of cell native to the human body. It is life's comforter, and the bridge from human consciousness into the unknown. All these glands work together and complement one another in bringing man to perfection. I sipped my coffee and slyly gazed at my wife. I'll bet that stuff's not found in the best books of anatomy. What do they know of such things, Mark? In 6 months we've discovered more about the complexities of the human mind than all the anatomists since the world began. Don't you want to join us in the quest for this high and holy master key? It had not occurred to me how far I had surrendered. In that hour it all seemed so logical, so heroic, so amazingly wonderful. I wanted to live forever at Thalamus. I already had forgotten my commitments as a lawyer. Ava, and the glory of the life she had given me, was driving Edith Brinkley wholly from my consciousness. A certain timid reluctance was all that remained to be conquered. "Where do I fit into the picture?" I asked. "You are the picture. A very small part at first, but your importance grows from day to day. I think you're coming along beautifully." "I can't say as to that," I modestly exclaimed. "But there's another question I'd like awfully much to ask you." "And that?" "You're sure you'll not mind?" I cautioned. "Of course not." "What the devil's wrong with your father's maid Insa?" "She's demented," Ava replied, and then paused a moment with her thoughts. "Once Insa was a very fine, talented girl, with an important and wonderful background. But now she's hopelessly demented." "But the strange way she yelped at me last night." "Oh, she has those spells." In my heart I knew why Insa had her spells, but the suspicion no longer shocked nor worried me. I could not doubt that Dr. Craner had injured her. My own apperceptions, while keenly and brilliantly alive since my submission to the doctor's hands, had nevertheless, by the very nature of the act, become unmistakably colored with a warmth and fervor for the Craner family's peculiar mission to the world. I realized and expected the path to knowledge would be littered with casualties. Skills are acquired only at the price of experiment and practice. In spite of my curiosity, I now felt, as doubtless did the Craners, that Insa, while regrettably injured, had performed nobly as a soldier in the advancing army of light. I had hoped for a clear confession from Ava's lips, but there seemed no need to probe deeper. I understood and condoned. "And how did your father come by all this wealth?" I asked. "His family inheritance. The woman who took him from the asylum could hardly have realized he was the unfortunate offspring of a noted and extremely wealthy Chicago couple who had hidden him away for obvious reasons. I could tell you their names and you would be surprised, but I shall not. For reasons of his own, my father has preserved the name of Craner, given to him by his kindly benefactress. When his real parents died without further issue, he came into their money. It is now pledged to the Cradle of Light Foundation." While Margot cleared away the breakfast plates and set ashtrays on the sunny table, we lighted cigarettes and basked in the early warmth of the April day. I seemed to have forgotten my resolutions of yesterday, my obligations toward my firm, my honest intentions toward my former fiancée. My mind crackled with brilliant and vivid images. My whole being seemed joyously alive and buoyantly young. Although a tyro, and hardly more than an interested observer, I was caught up in the dream of Ava and her family, and was growing more and more alive and loyal to its concepts. Like a religious devotee baptized to the fire of the Spirit, all doubt had fled, and all seemed right, harmonious, and whole. We leisurely smoked and watched the blackbirds and sparrows in the yard. Never before had I felt so contented. Never before had I felt so happy. "How long will it take before I've reached your plane of advancement?" I suddenly asked. "Why, Mark, I'm delighted. You truly have come around." A man's pride suffers something of a jolt unless he can be equal to or ahead of the woman in his life. "I know," she agreed, "and you're sensible to realize it. However, your progress toward the infinite rests entirely with yourself, your willingness to cooperate, your faith in the process, your desires to succeed. Nature has endowed you with organs and the attributes. The quickening comes both from within and from without. In every sense of the word, Mark, you must be a partner in the bargain. And, oh, I'm so happy. I knew when I met you that my choice was right." "Rather, I knew that my choice was right, but we'll not argue the point. I'm willing, Ava. Tell me what to do." "You'll have to decide into which tangent you wish to project yourself. Osmond and I are on entirely different routes toward the infinite. Osmond's journey through the next step is a bit rocky and uncertain. I think last night I detected fright. But he'll come through, I have no doubt." "Then he's going ahead with his treatment this morning?" I asked, in verification of the promise I'd heard last night. "At this very hour. My schedule is an alternate one with Father and Margot, every other night for each. I'm a step beyond Osmond. I passed through the phase that so worries him now." "This Margot person," I said, leaning confidentially close, so as to avoid any chance of eavesdropping. "She's utterly fascinating to a man with my imagination. Around me she's fearfully reticent, but I can plainly see that she's as versatile as the remainder of the Craner household crew." Ava smiled knowingly. "Margot's an amazing, brilliant woman," she said. "A technician second only to my father. Margot and Castleman tutored Osmond and me." "How do you attract such people?" I asked, leaning back in the gay sun chair. "That, Mark, is a thing you'll understand when you know us better. Our school of thought is founded on basic laws and principles. We shall never want for the right people to move the cause along. When you become an adept, these things will be clearer to you." "Well, things are clearer now," I happily replied. "But of course, there's still a lot of mystery." "You're here. Is that mysterious?" "Yes and no." "All things will come to you in time, Mark. I'll be happy when I can draw you into my plane." "I'll be happy when I can draw you into bed," I brazenly echoed. "Which brings me to a rather delicate subject, Mark dear." She paused a moment, and I stared with a lover's yearning into her pretty face. "Tonight must be the last night we can live together as man and wife, until the commencement of another cycle. Now, listen, Ava. We both must adhere to cosmic principles, but we're married. Have no fear, Mark. In our psychic journeyings we'll find our full share of exhilarating and satisfying experiences." "But this cycle business," I howled. "I tell you we're married." Quickly she arose and seated herself on the arm of my chair. I drew her to my lap, and she squeezed me in a breathless hug. "Of course we're married," she consoled, "and that's the most important thing in our lives." "I'm glad to hear you say it," I solemnly declared. "It will only be a short time until I come back to your chamber. Please be agreeable on this, Mark. We'll enjoy each other's company throughout this wonderful day. Be a good soldier, my love." "You're asking a hell of a lot." "Pshaw, there's tonight." "Good old tonight. And if I don't break your cycle, it'll not be that I didn't try." End of Chapter 9.